Alright guys, I think we'll just get started then. So again, thanks very much for re-registering. I apologise that we had to reschedule last week. So what I'll do is I'll just go through some of the slides and introduce kind of our thoughts about the reasons why we decided to go for some Fusion Friday training, basically, to give you some insight on the advantages of using Fusion 360 and also the product design collection. Okay, so today guys, we're going to have a quick look at AnyCAD within Fusion 360 and the product design collection. So just in case anybody hasn't met me before, my name is Cheryl Snedden. I'm an application consultant for Symetri. I've been with the company now for about 5 years. And this is just a bit of knowledge about me. I'm based in UK, mainly Aberdeen, but anywhere really. So myself and also my colleague Wazim is on the webinar today. So if you've got any questions, then feel free to fire them into the chat, and Wazim will pick up some of the questions. And if there's anything we can't answer, then we'll go away and we'll get some more information and get back to you as soon as we can. So Wazim's is going to be at the ready for any questions if anybody's got any questions during the webinar. Okay. So just to give you a bit of knowledge about the guiding star for Symetri, some of you might have seen this before, but we tend to show this quite often just to make you aware that we challenge people to work smarter for a better future. So the reason why we're joining the webinar today is to get you a bit of knowledge about Fusion 360 AnyCAD, and it's the start of a journey with us in the next few weeks, going over some of the more particularly specific subjects within Fusion 360 that will allow you to work smarter, that will give you more tools in your toolbox, and it will allow you to broaden your horizons and allow you to challenge yourself for a better future. Okay, so let's have a quick look at some of the information that we've got for you in terms of what AnyCAD is. So it's important that we understand that AnyCAD is actually a part of the product design collection as well, which we'll go over in a second. So if you can just take a second to ask yourself some questions, like, do you receive any other CAD files? What format are the CAD files in? How do you handle the files at the moment? Also, are you using any type of workflow? Are you bringing some of your AnyCAD files into Inventor at the moment? Are they working for you? Are they giving you any troubles? What happens if the file changes? If the third party comes back to you and there's been a reiteration? Did the changes happen quite frequently? And how are you tackling that at the moment? Also, the last one, which is pretty important, is the time. How much time is it taking to actually manage these files within your current CAD platform, whether that be SolidWorks or Inventor? Okay, so is there a solution to the fact that you're getting a lot of these other CAD files and how you can work with them within an environment that's structured specifically for any CAD files format? And yeah, the answer is yes. So if anybody currently works with the product design and manufacturing collection, or if anyone is looking to move forward to the product design and manufacturing collection, then this gives you the whole collection, and allows you to work with Inventor, to work with Fusion 360, and basically to have one connected professional grade package that allows you to work in various different platforms, building a connection between each, where you've got tools for product design and manufacturing collection. Okay, but the main reason why we're here, guys, is to have a look at Fusion 360 and how exciting the new features are within. So myself and Wazim got together and thought we would put some information together for you guys, specifically on Fusion 360, to allow you to see that you don't have to be limited in terms of just using one CAD platform. We can now start using Inventor with Fusion 360. We can also use AnyCAD file formats. And then in the next couple of weeks, we're going to introduce all the different subjects within Fusion 360 that you can utilise with that AnyCAD file format as well. Okay. So just to give you a bit of knowledge about AnyCAD in general, so back in 2015, 2016, Autodesk introduced AnyCAD into Inventor, and slowly but surely over the years, the new releases have came out with more file formats that you can introduce into Inventor. So you can bring in your SolidWorks, CATIA files, Pro Engineer, Creo, etc. So the ones that you can see on the screen just now. But then they introduced Fusion 360 with AnyCAD as well. So this gives you now the capability to have AnyCAD within Inventor and AnyCAD within Fusion 360. Okay. So Fusion 360 to Fusion 360 AnyCAD, what can you link and where can you link it? So the AnyCAD file, which could be a step file, SolidWorks file, must reside within your Fusion Team Hub. Okay, I don't know if anybody was in the webinar that I did a while ago about Fusion Team and your Autodesk 360 account and how it all works. I'm not specifically going to go over Fusion Team Hub, but if you do have any questions, feel free to fire them into the chat, or you can get in contact with us after this, and we can go over Fusion Team. Okay. Placing the AnyCAD reference creates an associated link to the design file, and that link basically, when it's placed into your Fusion 360 environment, it will then update whenever you change the native file. So let's say, for instance, you bring in a SolidWorks file, and then the supplier of that SolidWorks file comes back and says, we've made an iteration to that file. As soon as you replace it in the file or in your Team Hub location, it will then notify you there's been a change, and that will then allow you to get the latest version, and it will update surrounding your other CAD files within the Fusion 360 environment. Okay, so this slide here basically just gives you a bit more knowledge in terms of how you go from your Fusion 360 using Inventor AnyCAD references. So if you had a part that was created inside Inventor, for instance, or an assembly, you would then create some sort of pack and go or save as and place that information into your Fusion team. And then from your Fusion team, you can get access to the files and make reference to them within your Fusion environment. Okay. And then the other one we're going to go over, guys, is Fusion 360 to Inventor AnyCAD. Okay, again, where are the links? So now in the latest versions of Fusion, the files are actually called .fusion design files. They used to be called FP3 files, but they've changed the file format. So the .fusion design files connect up through something called the desktop connector. And again, I'm going to show you how to download the desktop connector and why it's important to this AnyCAD solution that we're provided. The Fusion file isn't saved on your local drive, it's saved in your Fusion Hub, and it's a desktop connector that gives it the ability to connect between Inventor and Fusion 360. So like an AnyCAD reference, the reference is actually embedded into your assembly or your IPT file. Okay, so again, this is just another slide to show you that if you want to use your .fusion design files into either an assembly or a part file, you would insert them or place them in from your Fusion Team Hub. Okay, so we get this question quite often, guys, and you'll have seen lots of information about it online, and we always get asked the question, is Inventor better than Fusion 360 or vice versa? And the answer to that question is, if you've got the product design collection, why would you limit yourself to just one CAD platform? So there's so many different ways to do things now that we shouldn't really be limiting our designs at all. What we should really be thinking about is maybe what we can benefit from in each of the different packages. So Fusion 360 itself allows us to use conceptual design, industrial design, mesh and reverse engineering really quickly using direct editing tools. Inside Inventor, we've got a lot of mechanical design tools like frames and pipes and harnesses and stuff like that. Bill of materials management is very important inside Inventor. So let's not limit your design to just one, and we can use the desktop connector to build a bridge between both. and you can then take information from both and you can work with them together. And that's the most important thing we're here and connected for today, is obviously to see how that works. Also in the future, you know, we can do a lot of things inside Fusion when we've got the Inventor files inside Fusion. We obviously in the past couple of years lost Showcase in our design package, and a lot of people still want to see really professional looking renders. And if you're not keen on doing that inside Inventor, then there's nothing here now to stop you from taking it inside to the Fusion 360 environment and creating some astonishing renders. And hopefully in the next couple of weeks, if you decide to attend our Fusion render webinar, you'll see the types of render that you can achieve within Fusion 360. Okay, so let's take a look, guys. Let's just jump straight into Fusion and have a quick look. So for anyone who's never used Fusion 360 before, and this might be the first time that you've ever seen it before, I apologise if I go quite quickly through things. Again, if you've got any questions, please feel free to fire them into the chat, or afterwards, you know, you can connect, you can contact us directly, and we can definitely go through some very specific things with you. So Fusion 360 is a cloud-based product, guys. On the left-hand side here, you're going to see your data panel. Inside the data panel, we're going to be working with a specific folder that's been structured for this webinar. So we're going to look at, specifically at the moment, other CAD files in terms of a stet file and possibly some SolidWorks files. We'll start off with the SolidWorks files first, and then we'll go over to some stet files as well. Okay, so basically this data panel here is linked up to your web browser, which is your A360 or your Team Hub account. So at the top here, you can see the Fusion 360 webinar link. If I click on that from the top, it's going to take me to my browser. It's going to open up my team, which is my Symetri team within my Team Hub, and it's a replication of the folders and the files that I've got within the data panel here on the left hand side. So a lot of the things that you can do on the left hand side inside Fusion in the data panel, you can also do in the web as well. Okay, so we'll keep that open for future. So what we're going to do is we're going to upload some files, and I'm going to select them from my local drive. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and find that just now. So let's go into our SolidWorks file just now. One thing just to point out, guys, whenever you receive third-party files from wherever that may be, it could be that you've been on GrabCAD, you've seen somebody else's model, you want to bring it into Fusion, or it could be from a third-party supplier. So what you'll see, if anyone's ever used SolidWorks before, you'll see the difference between the assembly and the part files. I'm going to just click on the assembly first of all. You'll get a warning that comes up that's basically telling you that you must select all the parts that were within that assembly as well. Okay, so we need to go back and make sure that we do that. So make sure you're selecting all the parts within that assembly, and when you click on open, you won't get that red warning that comes up. Once you've done that, we can upload the files. The good thing about uploading the files is the job status dialog box will pop up and give you a status bar. You can actually close this off, and you can look at the bottom left of the screen, and basically you can upload, you can see the upload progress from down the bottom there as well. And if you click on this icon here, it will open up the job status again and tell you what status that file is at. It will also tell you when it's complete, and when it's complete, up here at the top here, you'll see that the shock absorber has been added to your folder location now. Okay, so a couple of things in here, guys. You'll be able to see that there is actually versioning control within Fusion. And if you left click on that, you'll see some history and some details about this file. You'll see down here it's actually been imported from a SolidWorks file. Right. The other thing that you can do in here is you can actually click to view this information on the web. So you'll see that it now starts preparing to view the shock absorber. So I'll leave that working in the background just now and come back in here. So I'm going to open up this file directly. So just right click on it and open it up inside Fusion. So what it'll do is it'll take that file, which is still a SolidWorks file, and it'll bring it into the Fusion environment. So what we can do inside this environment is we can actually right click on these files and we can isolate them, and we can make changes to them. So we can actually use direct modeling. So we're going to go up and use the extrude command, and let's say for instance we want to add some information here. We want to thicken up this small part of our base that we've got. Okay, so we can right click and unisolate when we're finished, and we can see that at the moment the spring is still conflicting. And guys, just to make you aware, this is a SolidWorks part as well. So you've brung it in, you've done your direct edit, you've made changes. So you're making changes, direct modelling changes to this. You don't necessarily have to go back to your supplier and ask for a most up to date, although you can do that because it's referenced in the future when I show you that. You can make changes to existing files at the moment. Okay, so if we want to make a change to this spring as well, what we can do is we can also isolate the spring, and we can also go and we can make some changes to the bottom part here. Let's just select this face, and we're going to go -3 on that one. We're going to cut that away as well, and then we'll go back and we'll unisolate that part. All right, so we're making direct modelling changes to this part, this assembly that we've brought in from SolidWorks. Just to make you aware, guys, just as a quick note, whenever you bring in any CAD files, you might want to make sure you capture the design history. As per the default, when you bring in files from an AnyCAD, another CAD platform, it doesn't capture the design by default because it's a direct modelling tool automatically. So if you want to capture the design history, then you want to specifically tell the system that that's what your intention is. So we can then, when we make changes, so for instance, if we want to make changes here, we can see any of the changes that we made are captured down the bottom in the timeline, and we can then edit and delete these away as and when we need to. Okay, so just a quick tip for you. So once we start making changes to this, guys, what you'll see is you've got version 1 on the side here. When we go up and click on save, we can actually add some comments in here saying that we've changed the base. So base changed, sorry, and we can say okay to that. Okay, so what it will do here is it will then update and save this file, and it will create another version. So you can see how you've got 2 versions of this file now. You've got the original one when you uploaded it, and then the second one which you've just created, which is version number 2. Let's say, for instance, you want to go back to the original version, then you can certainly start to you can promote these files up. So sorry guys, I've just got a quick connection issue here. Sorry about that. So we're back into Fusion. So like I say, we've got 2 versions of this file now, guys. So what we can do here, you can see if you look under the information history, you can see that you've got a button to click on promote. So at the moment you can actually open multiple versions. Oh, it's maybe not recommended. Don't open multiple versions because you might get a bit confused, but you can promote back to the previous version, which is a very nice tool within Fusion. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do, guys, is we're going to have a quick look at something else. We're going to have a quick look at inside bringing an Inventor file into Fusion. So we've got an assembly here. Let's just open up this assembly. This is a native assembly inside of Fusion. There's been some joints and stuff added to these components, and you can see that we've got some free movement within these components. So we're going to bring in a new part that was specifically made inside of Inventor. So this part was actually opened inside Inventor and saved to our Fusion team hub. Okay, so this is the part that we're going to bring in. So if I just show you where this file actually exists, so if I just click on save just now, let's just click on open. Okay, so what happens is basically when we download the desktop connector, which can be found in our Fusion team. So if we're in our Fusion team, which is on the web, up at the top right corner, when we drop down the list, we can see that we've got an install desktop connector for Fusion. Okay, when we install the desktop connector, it basically then gives us a connection between our our Windows Explorer and our Fusion A360 account, which allows us to then save files in there, and we can then bring them into Inventor and Fusion. Okay, so what you'll see down at the bottom here in your running applications is the desktop connector is running at the moment. So just to show you what it actually looks like, there can be actions pending, and also you can manually sync any changes that you've made, so you can refresh your drives at any point if there's been any changes made or any other files added in. Okay, so what it basically does is, if I look at your Internet Explorer, if we go in here, you can see I've got a Fusion 360 drive. So when you download and install the connector, you get your Fusion 360 drive, and then that gives you the ability to go in and you've got access to something called a Fusion Team Hub. Okay, so this Team Hub is specifically set up by Autodesk at your request, and then you've got access to all these files. Okay, and these files here are basically just a replication of what I've got existing within my Fusion team. So you can see if I click on all, I've got access to all of these files down the side here, and these are the exact same as all the files that you can see in your Internet Explorer. It's a bit like Dropbox. Okay, so we're going to go in, and I'll just close this off just now. So this is the part that I've created inside Inventor. We're going to get into Fusion, and we're going to bring this part in. So on the left hand side, because it's in the data panel, which is connected to your A360 account, you can right click on these files and insert into current design. So we're going to bring in this Crag Aram. So when you bring the file in, it will basically be linked. You can see this icon here, and you can also see it, you'll see it in your timeline down at the bottom right hand corner down here as well. Okay, so it'll be captured in the timeline. So what we're basically going to do here is we're going to take these smaller parts that we've got, and we're going to make some connections between them. Let's just see if we can get that one out from in there as well. That's us. Okay, so we're going to use some joints. Let's just quickly capture the connection that we've got in here. Let's just say okay to that. We're going to add some joints in here. Guys, I don't know if anybody's ever used joints before. They've been in Inventor for a while as well, so they can be really useful. Really quickly you can constrain parts together. I mean, if anyone's ever used Inventor before, if we had tried to do this in Inventor with just common constraints, we would have had to use planes and axes and things like that as well. So joints can be really useful and really quick as well. So what we're going to do here is we're just going to add some more connections. Let's just add a Revolut connection. And you can see how the components are now, they're now coming together. This is a good thing about Fusion 360, is the ability to be able to test the actual movement as you're working with the files. It's really quite powerful. Inside Inventor, we're so used to building assemblies and making sure they don't actually move. But let's be honest with you, whenever we're building our assemblies, we want to make sure, that they actually move in conjunction with each other, so we can test the movement and stuff like that as well. So we've just added some more joints in there, guys. And then the biggest thing about this is the fact that we've brought this part in here, and it's actually linked back to Inventor. So we're going to go back to Inventor, and we're going to make some quick changes. So we're going to add some fillets. Let's add some fillets just quite quickly in around some of these areas. Okay. And we're just using a simple change. Sorry about that. All right, so we've made some changes, guys. We've just added some fillets in there so that you can see, and then we're going to save out the file. And remember, this file is actually saved in your team hub, so it's saving back. You can see here on the right hand side, the left hand side, sorry, in your browser, that this is saved as a cloud file. So now that we've made a change to it, we're going to go back. We're going to refresh our data panel, and we're going to give it a couple of seconds just to make sure that it kicks in. And when it does kick in, it will basically come up in 3 different locations. down at the right hand corner of your screen, you'll see that there's a warning. Also at the top of your quick access toolbar, and then in the browser as well. So it's telling you that this file is out of date. So what we need to do is we need to right click on this file and we need to get the latest file. So basically what's going to happen is it's going to go away and grab that file, all the updates within the file, and it's going to bring it into your Fusion 360 environment. So let's be honest with you guys, this used to be something that was really difficult to do. Obviously, if we had other CAD formats and we wanted to bring them in natively to our native CAD environment, now that we've got this AnyCAD within Fusion 360 and we've got AnyCAD inside Inventor, sky's the limit. We can start bringing in these step files. We can start bringing in SolidWorks files. We can redesign around them. We can use the data that we've got existing from them, and we can build our designs around to create one mechanical design. Having some connection issues, guys. I think it might be the webinar. That's us. It usually doesn't take that long. I apologise for that, guys. But you can see now that you've got the updates there, which is your fillets that have been added. All right. So that's your connection between Fusion 360 bringing in your Inventor file. Okay, so we're going to have another quick look at something else. So what we're going to do this time is we're going to go in and have a look at our Fusion to Inventor file. Okay, so we're going to go back, we're going to close this off first of all. And then we're going to go into Inventor, and I'll close this file off as well. And then we're going to create a new assembly. So what we're going to do this time is we're actually going to bring in Fusion 360 files into the Inventor environment, and then we're going to make changes inside Fusion. We're going to update the files inside of Inventor. Okay, so first of all, let's just place in. Apologise for any of the guys who are on the webinar. Unfortunately, I've picked a very, should I say, girly thing to build today. So it's a hairdryer. Well, apart from Waz, because we know how Waz likes his hairdryer. Okay, so let's just delete some of these out. I was too quick to click on that there. All right, so we've got our components, and these components have actually been brought into Inventor from another CAD platform, and they've been converted into Inventor models that can then be edited inside Inventor. But in this instance, we're going to then bring in a Fusion file as well. So we're going to go up, and this time we're going to click on Place Imported CAD Files. So we're going to then go to our Team Hub, and we're going to navigate to our folder. Okay, and we're going to place in a part that's actually being created within Fusion. So we'll just let that process. So the good thing about Fusion is we can do a lot of models inside Fusion that are basically using freeforms instead of using normal extruded or revolved features. We can do things like, you'll see the image when it comes up, things like this. Obviously the outer case of the hairdryer can be manipulated and sculpted from the freeform environment inside Fusion. So it was a bit easier to design that file within the Fusion environment. So you can see how it's brought in the case in two different halves. You've got two different bodies, and you can pick and choose what you actually bring in as you're bringing the file in. So you can see the yellow plus sign indicates that you're actually adding the file in, but you can select and grey out and only bring in one part of the body if you wish. I'm going to bring in both. I'm going to click on OK. All right, so when I bring it in, I'm just going to place it in just now, and I'm going to say OK to that. So you can see in the browser it indicates there's a cloud next to that as well, and this is telling me, this icon here is telling me basically that this is a reference file. So if I want to make any changes to this casing, I must go back to the native file and make the changes to the native file. Okay, I'm going to add some constraints in before we move on. So let's put some constraints in just to place it together. Apply that, and we'll put some constraint there as well, just so that you can see where we're going with the design. So if I just move this into place, guys, you can see that there is some clashes, you know, and there's some clashes down here. There's some changes that need to be made to the original file. So you can see it doesn't fit perfectly with the design. So what we would tend to do is here, we would either go back and make changes to the native file ourselves, or we can ask someone else to do it, whoever owns the native file. So if we go back to Fusion, and if we go in and open up that file, what we can do in here is we can make a change. So we're going to go into the sculpted environment. And if anyone's never been in a sculpted environment before, it can be difficult to make changes to these files, but we're going to make a quick change here. So if we go back to Inventor, we can see there's a wee bit of a clashing issue down here at the bottom. What we can do is we can make some changes to that overall shape. So we'll just try and make it a wee bit bigger, and then we'll just pull it down slightly. Just take it down to the front end here. And we'll make some changes. So once we're finished, we'll just finish the freeform. I'm going to save out this file. Again, we can tell anyone who's going to view these files what changes we've made. We'll just save that out, back into Inventor, and the difference between both is we have to right click on the file and check for any updates to that file. It'll tell us that there is updates needing done. We can click on yes, and it will go ahead and process any of the changes that you've made. Okay, so the link between your desktop connector and Fusion and Inventor is really important to your designs. So being able to make changes to any Fusion designs or any Inventor designs within Fusion or Inventor, I think is a fantastic new tool. And if you guys are working with the product design collection, it's like I mentioned before, there is no limits. The sky's the limit. You know, you can make changes here either yourself or from a third party. And we've never had this before. We've never had the ability to have all of these CAD formats within one native application. I mean, for years and years we struggled to get our designs together with any of our suppliers' designs, and suppliers are now coming back with 3D models more frequently. They don't want to keep their designs to themselves because we can do this type of thing. They can take the knowledge out of their files, they can compress them down, they can send you step files, and you can then use them within these AnyCAD environments, and you can build your designs around them. So you would be crazy not to use these tools. And like I say, this is the reason why we started with AnyCAD, because now if we want to make this look even nicer, we want to render it up, we can either do that within Inventor if we've got the confidence, or we can take it into Fusion 360 and we can do that as well. All right. So I just wanted to give you some knowledge about the ways that you can work with Inventor, the ways that you can work with Fusion. There's one other thing I want to quickly show you before we go on to the question and answers. If anyone's got any questions, when we bring this file in to Inventor, what we did is we actually imported the CAD file in specifically because the changes that we were going to make were inside Fusion. But let's say, for instance, we want to add features inside Inventor to that Fusion file as well. Let's say we want to cut out some shapes from the back of this hairdryer, but we want to do that inside Inventor. So now that we've got the Fusion file and it's fully up to date and it fits perfectly, we want to add our own features in there, for instance. We don't want to go back to the supplier, or we want to make changes. Okay, so I'm going to delete that out just now, and I'm going to bring it in a different way this time. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to create a new part within here. I don't know if anyone's ever done this before, but it's quite a frequent workflow. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new part, and when we create a new part inside Inventor, it will then give us access to all the 3D modeling tools, so we can import in the CAD file again. But this time what we're going to do is when we bring the CAD file in, we're going to reference it within a part so that we can then add our own features. So let's do the same process again. This time when we bring it in, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to use it as a reference. We're going to load in the model. And we're going to apply the two bodies in that we need. So it's going to bring the casing in. Okay. So at the moment it's not constrained, so we're going to go back into the assembly and we're going to do the same thing again just to put the constraints back in. So we're just going to constrain it up. All right, and we'll just roughly put it into position at the moment. Like I say, we can make changes. We can also fully constrain it. Okay, so now that we've done that, we've got this part called casing, and if I go inside that casing part, I can work with that casing part within the Inventor environment on its own. And now that we've got that casing in here, what we can do is we can actually create a new sketch. So I'm going to create a new sketch on the back of my hairdryer that I've got here just now. I'm just going to spin it round to the back. I'm going to slice the graphics just now. So just for quickness, guys, this might not be the best way to do it, but let's just do this for quickness and see what we can get out of this. So let's just move this into position. It's just an example. So we'll just create a rectangular pattern of that geometry. I'll just push it in this direction. Let's put 5 of them in there like this. And like I say, guys, it's just an example just to show you what the software is actually capable of, and this is just amazing. So what we can do is we can select each of these profiles and we're going to cut them away and we're going to cut them through all. Oh, the only thing I did miss to do there was to pick the two solids, guys. It's pretty important, you know, it's picking two solids, because when we were inside Fusion, we split this up into two different solids. And because it's two different solids, we need to make sure that we select both solids as well. All right, so we can see here that we can actually add Inventor features to a Fusion file, allowing just the Fusion file to be updated in, let's say for instance, we just want to have the sculpt done inside Fusion. Then we want to take that design and we want to take it inside Inventor and we want to make changes to it, and that is the solution. We can make the changes within the Inventor environment. All right, I think it's pretty awesome, guys. I hope you feel the same. I went over a lot of that really quickly. Like I said previously when we started off, if you've got any questions, feel free to fire them in to the chat, or you can contact us directly. I hope that you tune in for the next couple of webinars. Like I say, we've got lots of different stuff coming up. Wazim's going to be going over generative design. If I just go back to the slides, just so that you can see. Sorry, guys. So Wazim's going to be going over generative design and simulation on the 31st of May and the 14th of June. We're keeping it the same times, guys, 45 minutes. Again, questions during the sessions or after is completely fine. And then we're going to go over some render on the 28th of June and some CAM stuff on the 12th of July. All right. Feel free, guys, to add any questions into the chat. I hope you've enjoyed this webinar. I tried to keep it quite light, but as I said before, it's such an amazing part of the product design collection. You would be crazy not to give it a go. But like I say, we're here to hold your hand if you've got any questions. So feel free to get in contact with us at any point. So thanks very much for attending, guys. The session's also been recorded. So if you feel your colleagues would benefit from any of the information, or you want to then show your manager or something like that, let us know and we can give you the recording so that you can make people in your team aware of how fantastic the AnyCAD functionality is within Fusion 360. Thanks again, guys.